Today, we're going to go through the history behind the commercial radio built in the former East Germany that was used by international spies to receive instructions from behind the Berlin Wall. Let's jump into it. The Cold War was a state of political and military tension after World War II in between the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc. The Western Bloc consisted of the United States, Europe and NATO, whilst the Eastern Bloc was formed by the Soviet Union and its Warsaw Pact allies. The victory of the Soviet Union over Germany in 1945 gave them huge territorial gains in Eastern Europe. Those states were banded together economically and politically, creating a superpower that was able to challenge the might of the United States. Although the two powers never engaged in a full-scale conflict, both countries were constantly preparing for an all-out nuclear war. During the Cold War years from 1947 to 1991, information was a key commodity. It was vital to gain an advantage in intelligence about the enemy's capabilities, especially related to atomic weaponry. For security agencies like the CIA or the KGB, using high-tech surveillance that is used today was not an option, so the states relied on spies, people who infiltrated enemy territory and tried to discover information while staying undetected. Germany was in a very hot geographical and political position during the Cold War. The country was divided in 1945 into Western and Eastern sections. The US, the UK and France had control over the Western Partition and the Soviet Union over the eastern part, also called GDR. This created an inner border not only dividing the country, but separating these two major superpowers at a time in history where total nuclear annihilation was a potential scenario. Iron Curtain was the name used to describe the initially non-physical boundary dividing Europe into two separate areas, but there was a city with a major anomaly: Berlin. Berlin was located deep inside the Eastern Bloc, therefore surrounded by Soviet territory, but as the city was also divided into East and West, the US, Britain and France had still military and political presence on the west side. The city was considered the most valuable base in the world for espionage against the Soviet bloc until the construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961. The British Intelligence Service, also known as the MI6, had half of its total strength concentrated in Berlin at the end of the 1950s. Following the erection of the Berlin Wall, the East German population couldn't travel to West Germany anymore, so espionage became more difficult for spies who formerly traveled from West to East Berlin to gather information, resulting in them having to modernize their espionage tactics to use a more technical approach. Those international agents working in East Germany were commonly GDR citizens, obeying orders from one of the Western intelligence services, such as the West German BND, in German Bundesnachrichtendienst, that employed approximately 10,000 East Germans as spies. Coded instructions for those agents were sent by a number of stations located in the West. A number station, also known as a one-way voice link, is a special type of unusual radio broadcast, generally on the shortwave radio bands, reading out incomprehensible lists of spoken numbers or Morse coded messages. The agents were instructed to listen to specific shortwave frequencies at fixed days and times. In most cases, the messages hidden behind the numbers were encrypted by means of the truly unbreakable one-time pad cipher, and the spies were trained to decode such messages and destroy the keys immediately after reception. But there was a big problem. Commercial radios that would capture those specific number stations in East Germany were difficult to obtain, and having a device from Western brands like Sony, Panasonic or Grundig would raise suspicion, which was exactly what an undercover spy wanted to avoid. A good solution the West German BND found was to instruct its agents to buy an unobtrusive East German-made commercial radio as any GDR citizen would. One of the most preferred receivers by those agents was the beautiful Sternchen. Sternchen was the first pocket radio set manufactured in the GDR that was fully transistorized and that was powered by a then relatively new 9V block battery. It was brought onto the market by VEB Sternradio Sonneberg, presented at the Leipzig Trade Fair in 1959 after around a year of development. With its technical performance features and such small dimensions, it was a miniature device which found huge sales among young people in the GDR right from the start, and was also internationally competitive in the early 1960s. The Sternchen receivers were manufactured in Sonneberg, a city in the province of Thuringia, but from 1961 they were also built in Berlin. The radio measures 14.5 by 9 by 3.5 centimeters, weighs 320 grams, and was available in a wide variety of colors. It is housed in a plastic enclosure with a metal grid over the internal speaker. At the right side, it has a 3.5mm socket for the connection of an earpiece, which was available separately. But there was something peculiar about this device. It was only suitable for the reception of the medium wave band in the frequency range from 510 to 1620 kHz. That meant that it was unable to tune in the shortwave radio bands where the BND sent instructions. To overcome this restriction, Western agencies started distributing the so-called BND converters that converted Sternchen into a shortwave radio that could receive two crystal-based channels on which the BND transmitted its coded messages. An advantage of down conversion to medium wave was a form of band spread, which allowed easy tuning to the shortwave station. However, a big disadvantage of this converter was the relatively strong radiation of the crystal-controlled local oscillator, which was liable to detection and location with radio direction finder equipment. Today, the devices are in great demand as collector's items. I found this charming turquoise model for 60 euros on my local eBay. The previous owner is an all things GDR collector that had the radio in perfect conditions with its original box and guarantee from 1960. Absolutely admirable. As we can see, the cover box was designed for the kind of buyers the radio was aimed for, young people on the go. The carrying strap has barely any signs of use, which is also surprising. Stern Radio Berlin made this particular model, which gives it extra value in the used market, but I don't think I'll be selling this fantastic item anytime soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. During my research I found the topic fascinating. Berlin has such a dark and interesting history, which I'm looking forward to explore from the perspective of all these amazing gadgets. Thanks for watching, until next time.